You have heard that it was said for those of ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, you fool, you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother and sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you're on your way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. It was also said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of unchastity, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you've heard that it was said to those of ancient times, you shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your hand, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. Wow, looks like this might even work. So, for those, I can't see you at all with these, so I'm going to take that off. Those are just for reading. So, for those of you who didn't know that Pastor Reid wasn't going to be here and wandered in here today, surprise, surprise, surprise. Here I am. So, and for those of you who wandered in here knowing that Pastor Reid wasn't going to be here, and instead it was going to be me, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Your love for the church must be tremendous, and I'm really glad that you're here. So, this morning's lesson was kind of a tricky one to go through. I thought about talking about adultery and all those kind of things, but I decided to skip that, or talk about murder, talk about other things. But this past week, I've already skipped ahead. As I was preparing for this lesson, I was thinking, how can I possibly do something that's even remotely good compared to what we have week in and week out? How great our pastor is. She is truly tremendous. And this is really a time for each of us to tell folks about our pastor. You can be proud that she's going to deliver a great message. As I was preparing for this, I actually reviewed a number of messages. And I read a lot of sermons because I didn't want to say things that were completely wrong. I wanted to have some basis and some theological grounding. So I read a lot of sermons. They were mostly terrible. They were mostly boring and dry. And I did not want to recount one of those. What I'm going to talk about today is based on a sermon that I read with a little bit of twist for myself. But the sermons that we get from Pastor Reid are tremendous. And it's such a blessing to have her here. So, and this is really why I have the PowerPoint. So when I jump ahead, I'm supposed to talk about this. So last week, I was not here. I was in Orlando with my daughter and my wife, and we saw a movie called The Founder about Ray Kroc, the founder of the McDonald's Corporation. It's a pretty good movie. And it reminded me of a story of a man who went into a McDonald's with his son, and he just wanted the standard hamburger meal, and his son was going to get the standard chicken meal. And they went in there, and it's kind of busy, McDonald's, but it's McDonald's, so it should be pretty good. He gets up there, he makes his order, steps away, and waits, and waits. 5 minutes pass. 5 whole minutes pass. And he's wondering, what is going on? So he goes back up to the counter. The man goes back up to the counter. He says, how much longer is it going to be for my hamburger meal and chicken meal? And the McDonald's person said, we're sorry, sir, we're really busy. It's going to take a little bit of time. Please be patient with us. And the man tries to step back, but he just can't let go. He can't let go. He says, I thought that McDonald's invented fast food. I thought that it says McDonald's right here. It says that surely you guys should be delivering this food rapidly. That's why we come here. If this wasn't fast food, if this wasn't McDonald's, he's saying this in front of people. He's just going off. You should call this a diner. You should have waitresses. You should have people. We should have chairs and wait and get our menus and get all. He got very excited, very red-faced. You should raise your prices. His son, who was with him, was a little bit embarrassed. Kind of put his head down and sulked off to the side. This was not a glorious message for this man to be delivering, getting all angry and getting out of control. And that's what today's message is about, is not losing your temper, not getting angry, at least the first part, 21 through 26. That's what I'm choosing to focus on today. Jesus tells us how to deal with this anger. First, he asks us to not be angry with your brother or your sister, which is a hard thing to do. Just that on itself, it's hard to do. Anger is a very natural feeling for some of us. We get angry. Each morning I wake up, I'm usually pretty excited about the day. I have a great job, I have great things going on in my life. I'm usually pretty excited. But when things like this happen, I do get angry. What is that car doing in the left-hand lane? Why is it there? Why doesn't it move over? And why is that car behind it about 6 inches behind him? Why don't they just go around? I prefer to think of myself as this car right here. But it's something that can cause you to get angry when something like this happens. You see this and you're like, what is going on? What are these people doing? So Jesus goes on to tell us that we're not supposed to say mean things to other people. Don't be mean to other people. Do not call people a fool. There's a man, this is a Walgreens drive-through pharmacy. And it's never like this. This is early morning. There's cars lined up in the left. In the left-hand lane, when you go in the left-hand lane, that's where you go in to pick up your drugs, your medications. They come out through like a little drawer right there. And when you go in the right-hand lane, that's where you just drop off your prescriptions. It's usually a fairly quick transaction. And there's just one person back there, and they kind of take care of both lanes. And typically, this lane has almost nobody in it, and this lane has a few people in it. So there was a man who was in line. It was 4 cars deep. He's trying to decide whether to turn his car on and off while he's waiting, because it's a transaction going on here. It's a little bit like getting a home loan. The amount of things they have to get, right? You've got to sign for things. You've got to authorize that you're the right person. This really you getting the drugs, and if it's for your family or something, and you're not that person, you just got to show all kinds of identification. There's a lot that goes on right here, so I don't begrudge that this takes a little bit of time. You have insurance. You've got payment. There's a number of things that have to happen when you're in that left lane. Well, the man, after being 4 deep, he finally gets to the front. It's 15 minutes. He's turned his car on and off. He finally gets to the front. And just as he's pulling up to the front, no one's been in the right-hand lane, but someone just pulls up in a brand-new Chevy truck. Brand new. Spanking. It's still got the dealer tags on it. Pulls up into that. He's like, it's okay. It's okay that person has moved up there. I know they didn't have to wait like I did, but it's a simple transaction. All they do is they give their prescription, and they shoot it through. You say, did you get it? Because you're not really sure. It's like shooting a space shot. You're wondering if it really gets over there to the other side. But they say, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Browning, it's there. So it's kind of so it should be a quick thing. But for this man, it wasn't a quick thing. And he can hear everything because he's got his window rolled down because he's ready to get his prescription. It's all paid for. He's ready to go. But he can hear. And so a conversation goes on. Again, just like the McDonald's thing, it's about 5 minutes of conversations. For some reason, it's going on. And so he's starting to hear words because there's a speaker that's emanating to the pharmacy aide. So he can hear this, and he's like, how are you going to pay for this? The pharmacy aide says, how are you going to pay for this? And the person says, well, how much is it? Well, it's, $60, And so he's like, are they paying? What's going on here? Why are we talking about payment? That happens in this line. And the person says, oh, that's too much money. Don't you realize I'm on Medicaid? And the man is like, what? You've got this brand new pickup truck, and you're on Medicaid, and you're taking all this time to do this transaction that should be like that? He starts to think that she might be a fool. And in fact, the people at Walgreens might be fools. What is going on? In fact, the whole country is a bunch of fools. How does this happen? What's going on? He gets irrational. However, in this case, he doesn't express it. He just keeps it to himself because he's just trying to get his medicine. He doesn't go on and rant and rave. So there's been some improvement with the man, some gentle improvement. It's been years have passed since the first occurrence. So he waits. Let's go back to the passage. It's not just about the stories about Walgreens here today. It's the passage says, don't dehumanize the folks that you're interacting with. This is a bad thing. When you call them fool, it's like you're using another name for them versus their name. You're calling them a fool. This is a bad thing. Don't do this. Don't dehumanize them. As you dehumanize others, you're dehumanizing yourself. As you get so angry and so worked up, you're losing rational thought. You're doing the wrong thing. So Jesus gives us some clues about what to do when when you get angry, when you sense that things are not going well. There's only a few more slides. Stay with me. I appreciate your attentiveness. This picture doesn't really go, but it was a funny picture, other than the church has been burned down. But it illustrates what happened in the first century. Jesus tells us, let's say you're going to worship. You're wandering into worship. And you've got something in the back of your mind that's bothering you about somebody, where you're angry with them. You've got a beef with someone. He tells you, what he's telling us is, leave your offering at the altar. Turn around and go back and make amends. Leave. Even if it meant that it took you a couple days to get to the temple that week, because it's not always right next door. It's not always just at New Covenant where you just wander in here from a couple of miles away. And by the way, your offering back in the first century was live. It was typically a live offering. And you typically got credit for it, for leaving your offering at the altar. But he's saying, don't worry about that. Just wander up into the church. It's not a church. Wander up into the temple and leave your offering and go. And it's more important than doing the worship and doing the things in church. It's more important to make amends with the person that you've got a beef with. So if you guys could just hang out here right now. Don't leave right now. All of you that are thinking this is good words for you, just right after this, then you can leave. Okay, so, and this is the only picture I could find with live goats wandering around in a church. So that's why we got this picture. Okay, so Jesus goes on to say, let's say you have a dispute with someone. We could call it a beef. We've got a dispute with someone. It's risen so much that you've got to go to court. He tells us, okay, before you get to court, settle. Work it out. Work out the dispute amongst yourselves. Because when you get there, anything could happen. That's what those words in there. I didn't understand them the first 50 times I read them. But what he's saying is when you get to court, anything could happen. So settle it. Be like humans. Work it out amongst yourselves. It's not an easy thing to do, but sometimes when you get so angry that you've got to go to court, or at any other time when you get angry, if you could take a step back and you could look at the things that have happened objectively, there's a chance, what Jesus is telling us is there's a chance that you might be in the wrong. you might be at fault. Don't take it so far. Just be aware that you're a human and you could have made a mistake here. So I was gonna tell a story about this cracked windshield. John B., he requires a lot of things in preparation for this. You have to have the slides in weeks in advance. Okay, a couple of days in advance. So I turned in, and I had a story about this, but I'm not going to tell the story directly related to a man getting so angry that he punched his windshield helping his daughter with her homework. What a knucklehead that guy is. So what I'm going to talk about is another story that's related to damage to a vehicle, so the picture still sort of works. A man is at his house, and he receives a certified letter. A certified letter. Gets a certified letter, which he's never received a certified letter before. And what that means is you've got to sign for it. They want to make sure that it's actually been delivered. So he receives a certified letter. He gets it. He signs for it. He's kind of excited about it. I've got a certified letter. Someone thinks it's so important to give me the certified letter. He gets the certified letter. He signs for it. He looks at it, and it says, based on an accident that happened a year ago with your son, $700 of damage was done to my vehicle. And we are suing you for $2 million. $2 million. This is a true story. Absolutely true story. We're suing you for $2 million. Now, we recognize that the impact was between 5 and 10 miles per hour. Your son ran into the back of our vehicle, and it wasn't a high impact, and it only did $700 of damage to the vehicle. However, after the woman that was injured in this, she had had 6 prior knee surgeries, and she needed yet another. She needed to replace her knee. And there was a lot of pain and misery for replacing her knee. $2 million worth of misery had rained down on these people because they had been bumped into at 5 to 10 miles per hour. So please pay up. And here's the place to send the check. Whoa, I don't think I have $2 million. I'm pretty good at saving. But the man is like, I don't know, who has $2 million? He doesn't know. So after a year of mediation and planned court cases and things going back and forth, thinking that they can work out some sort of resolution, they can come up with some sort of settlement that's less than $2 million, the man starts to get angry. It's been a year. It's every day, oh, we're going to have a court date here. He's starting to get angry. He's starting to get a little bit worked up about this. He's having a hard time even sleeping. He's getting angry at his son. Why didn't you take any pictures? We have no evidence of what happened here. Well, it was no big deal. It was nothing. It was nothing. The police came. He's angry with the police because the police came and thought it was nothing. They didn't report it. There's no report of this even occurring. There's no report of them even showing up. You go to the police station, nothing for this date, for these people, for anything related to it. So what we have is he's angry at the people suing for $2 million. They've had all this lifetime of knee surgeries, and now they want one more knee surgery because they got bumped in the back. What is wrong with these people? What? And then something happens. The man lets go. And he forgives. He says, you know what? This is up to God. This is something that I don't have any control of this. It's not my son's fault for thinking this was no big deal. It's not the policeman's fault for thinking this is no big deal. It's not these people's fault for, they live in a litigious society, and they feel like they could probably get some restitution from this. $2 million is probably not what they're going to get, but they think about this. Eventually, it is settled. Oh, by the way, the man's insurance policy only goes up to $100,000 for this type of thing. So anything over $100,000 he has to pay out himself. A little bit scary. So as you might be able to guess, and I even slipped a little bit as I was talking there, all the stories about the man are about me. I'm not proud of it. All those stories that we heard, even the punching of the windshield, which you didn't really hear, all those stories, those are about me. And it's not something I'm proud of. In fact, it's probably enough to get me to sit down and you guys, why would we even listen to this guy? But this morning's lesson teaches us, Jesus is telling us what to do. He's telling us, look, first off, don't get angry. If you can do that, just don't get angry. Then, if you do get angry, that's a very natural thing. Jesus gets angry in the Bible. His righteous anger. It's not a sin when that happens. It's not doing a bad thing. Turning over the temple. He tells us, don't call other people a fool. Do not dehumanize others. You're messing up your relationship with God when you do that. The way you relate to other people is the way that you relate to God. He's telling us, make amends with people. Church is a thing that we do. It's a good thing. It's great for our renewal. But make amends with others. Work it out with others. Before you go to court, maybe look in the mirror. That's what this guy's doing. I didn't express that. Look in the mirror. Maybe I've done something wrong here. Maybe there's something that I've done. So I'd like to close with this is Valentine's Day coming up Tuesday. I thought about just doing a Valentine's lesson and talking about all the great things I've done for my wife on Valentine's Day. But this would have been a really short message. And I wanted to go ahead and at least try to give us a few minutes. So this year, when you're doing things for your wife or for your husband, when you're getting some chocolates or you're getting some sweets or you're getting some candy, oh wait, those are all the same things. If you're getting jewelry, if you're getting flowers, those are all good things. Keep doing those. You should do those things. But I hope you planned ahead. Don't wait till the last second unless you're going to go to Kroger. It's available at Kroger, used many, many times. You can even go the day of. It's a little picked over, but there are things there. But what you can do, maybe this year, I'm not asking you to think about it for a whole year, and I'm guessing that most of you don't have an anger issue like I might have. You might have an anger management issue. For a month, just try to, when you get angry with someone, try to forgive them quickly. When someone wrongs you, instead of getting angry with them, just forgive them. When you wrong someone, apologize. When someone wrongs you, forgive. Just for a month. And don't let it linger. Don't say, oh yeah, I did it a week later. Do it almost immediately, as soon as you think about it. Just for a month. Just try it for a month. Not for a whole year, just a month. And see if it helps. This is what Jesus, how he taught us how to live. And the fake pastor said, amen.